From pillar to the post, it's this week's Wrestling Perspective. Dennis Farrell, that's me. Russ McCall,
Hey, what's up, everybody?
that's him. We are bringing you for the next hour the Wrestling Perspective on over 100 radio stations all over the United States. You can go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com and listen to it commercial free later on if you choose. Russ, what's going on, bud?
Oh, man. You know, I don't think nearly as much is what's going on with you this past week.
What a weird week. Okay, without saying too much, for the last week, for the last year, from my regular daytime job, I've been like exiled to Siberia, not because of who I am. Iceland.
Yep.
Not because of who I am, but it was like a budget thing, right? I grow a beard out. I get fat. At one point, you would be shocked. I was kind of skinny at one point in life. I sit and play video games. You know what? Avengers Endgame Fat Thor is exactly who I've been over the last year.
Oh, good call. You know what? Now that you mention it, I see the resemblance.
Thank you. Nothing. Look, I'm sitting at home and getting paid too. I can't complain too terribly much for a year. And then in 1 week, like my whole life turned. It's almost like God's like, hey, you know what? I'm done smiting him. I'm going to give him a little bit good fortune. Media credentials to the All-Star game.
Big deal there.
Yes, huge deal.
Yeah.
The job I've kind of been trying to get was like, hey, look, I know you're on exile and kind of getting paid over here, but we're gonna bring you in as a trial. And I'm like, amazing. So I shaved. When's the last time you've seen me with just?
It's been a long time now.
I almost shaved it all off.
Really?
I almost went like.
When Russ looked, yeah.
Clean cut. But I'm a little worried
the head off too.
Because if I shave all my facial hair off of my face, I look like I pop up on some sort of list where I'm not allowed playground. So I got to be careful with.
Well, you were getting awfully close to that line with that being homeless too. So
good point.
Certain days you were close enough on that line.
We have a good show for you today. We are going to talk NXT. MLW, Jim Cornette, Sami Callihan. What else do we have on top?
Scarlett Bordeaux.
We're going to lead off with that.
I mean, good fortune for her. You're hot water, right? I
can't say too much publicly. P and I have been, what's that? You're not allowed to talk from a court?
Gag ordered?
Yeah, we've been gag ordered. But when we come back here on Wrestling Perspective, Russ McCall, Dennis Farrell, will talk more wrestling, everything you had. We'll recap everything. We may get into the pay-per-view. Wrestling Perspective will be right back. Wrestling Perspective, we are back, presented by BlueChew.com. Go to BlueChew.com, use the promo code Perspective. It keeps us on the radio. It keeps Russ and I employed. The podcast keeps going. We'll promote something at the end of the show. We have a lot going on. Blue Chew is the backbone of what financially keeps the radio show and Wrestling Perspective Podcast.com going. So go there, get the enhancements, steroids for the bedroom, whatever you want to call it. I don't care if you use it or don't, but BlueChew.com, promo code Perspective, help us out. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
I'm very happy with Blue Chew.
Hey, from BlueChew.com to Scarlett Bordeaux.
I was going to say, nice transition.
Thank you.
Specifically seeing, she's been on the news a lot, the speed.
I don't know why.
So, yeah, a lot of it, has to do with this particular interview that happened recently.
Where did that come from?
But she had some stuff in Mexico, too. Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah.
It seems like weird that over the last month, it's like when fans attack or fans go wild.
Dirtballs.
Absolutely, for one. And never should a female wrestler have to defend herself in her real life or how she dresses to the ring to a fan.
Absolutely not.
Because she dresses scantily clad does not give anybody permission to put their hands on her.
No, she's playing a character, and the fact of the matter is, you're there as an audience and an observer to the role.
That's right.
But
you're a prop.
You have no right to put your hands on any performer in any scenario, especially the way the fan did in Mexico. That was
I
uncalled
agree.
for.
So let's set up the Scarlett Bordeaux situation.
Yeah. So on the more Dennis front of Scarlett, so Scarlett Bordeaux was released from her Impact contract this past week, which was a direct result of the Killer Cross interview that allegedly that you heard here on the Wrestling Perspective.
Oops.
Yeah. Well, oops in a way, but it does seem that was something she was hoping for. So for her, that worked out well. Impact.
On public alert radio, let me defend myself for 1 second.
Yeah.
Because Petey and I have taken a lot of heat, and there were some misquotes from there. And and we've been quiet out of respect for Petey working for Impact. And they were less than thrilled with our decision to do this. But Petey and I really felt like we tried to set Impact up in this interview. We were very Impact positive. Yeah, I asked questions at Impact. Look, this was the way Impact's done their contracts forever. It's worked for everybody else. You knew about it, right? And he says yes.
Yeah, you did. You made that very clear. I felt like you did play devil's advocate in a very positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Where, you asked him solid questions about the contract, and were you aware what you were doing and what the terms were and all of that? And he absolutely said he was. And to me, the fact that he knew takes a lot of the heat off of Impact. So I was honestly a bit surprised that you guys got some backlash.
And little do people know, and we did not bring this up in the interview, but Scarlett's only been in the wrestling industry for maybe 2 years tops.
Yeah.
Impact helped train her in the wrestling ring. She had not been a trained wrestler before that, or she was just barely being trained at that point. I will say that
a rookie in all sense of the word.
Very much so. And anybody knows, whether it's sports or wrestling, you don't deserve top pay as a rookie.
No.
I don't care who you are. You are in a contract, you work up to it. And most contracts, you get paid for what you've done, not what you're going to do, because no one can predict the future.
Correct.
I think it was a mistake. I think maybe from a personality aspect, it was good Impact released her because she can move on. But I think it's a mistake to release Killer Cross. As good as a friend as he is, he's still an asset. He knew what he was doing, and he can still draw you money. I would like to have seen Impact keep her, but I don't know if she would have given 100%. I think Killer Cross is the kind of guy that would give 100%.
Yeah, no, I think he still has a lot to offer the company.
And this is me talking, not Impact talking. This is me talking, not Petey Williams talking either. So this is my opinion.
Yeah, no, and I do agree with you. I'm sure he's got his reasons, for wanting his release or more money or whatever his stuff is,
right.
Whatever his private matters are, in reasons. But from a pure business perspective, in my opinion, he signed a contract. It was for a certain duration.
I'm sorry your situation's changed.
That sucks for you, and I'm sorry for whatever that may be. But
have fun honoring it.
Because that is the case with anyone else in any contract you sign.
I'll say this now about Scarlett moving past the Killer Cross thing, because we don't really want to dwell on it. Petey and I have trying to weather some storms here. I had a death threat from it.
That's crazy.
An Impact fan was not happy, and they thought I painted Impact in a bad light, and they took it out on me with some.
And that person needs to chill out, dude.
Hoping I die of cancer. Great.
Man.
Anyways, so here's what I think about the Scarlett Bordeaux situation. Is if anybody were to ask me my opinion, I think this is going to be bad for her because she's still green. She's still a rookie. I don't know how much training she has, in all honesty. But if she goes to WWE or AEW or wherever, I think those are above her skill level. And sometimes you only have one shot at those situations. And I would love to have seen her maybe get some more training and skills around the world or around the United States before shooting your shot. I'm worried that she's going to go up there and she might get exposed. I did an interview today where the guy was like, well, if she goes to AEW, then it'll be all right because they can train her. But she's still behind the 8 ball compared to where everybody else who's going to NXT would be.
Yeah, and here's the thing, though. AEW is also in a spot where they're looking to make their own name, and they're looking to draw talents that are going to help them propel their brand. And I don't know that taking the time to train somebody on the job is necessarily something that is beneficial for them, to be honest.
You bring her in as a manager, great. I think she could succeed for AEW, maybe even WWE tomorrow with what she can do on the mic.
She's a great talker.
Yes.
She's clearly a beautiful woman.
I don't see looks, man.
Yeah.
Stop being looksist.
I do. She is a beautiful woman, and she's a great talker.
Yep.
And again, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate. I've seen her in live shows.
Mm-hmm. So have
I've gone to. We've been in some of them together. Yep. She is a great. She does a great job. I don't want to misconstrue what you're saying about her needing more work, and I think that's probably true. Is that she's a bad worker? She's not.
She's not. She just needs more work.
Yeah, she's coming along very nicely. I think she had some really entertaining matches,
but she's not AEW or NXT or WWE material just yet.
No, not on the ring side, not quite yet. But
right.
She has an opportunity to get there, and I think you're probably right. Some more time in Impact probably would have done some good. Getting the indie practice, getting the Impact TV time would have done her some good. I don't know about the storyline she was in with Falabala and all that, and how much that was helping.
Maybe, but it wasn't. Let's be honest. I think that was, we don't have anything for, because, Kevin Matthews, KM, left the company and left that situation in a big hole. Because I think that was
filling a gap.
Yeah, I think more so than that. And maybe they let her go because they didn't have anything for her. But Killer Cross is the cornerstone right now of that company as a heel.
Yeah, he's a solid heel, and he's playing a lot of weight, carrying a lot of weight on the heel side of the main event scene for Impact right now.
So as a company owner, I wouldn't let him go.
No, I wouldn't either. I mean, again,
he's a friend of mine, by the way.
Yeah, and I hate to, wish somebody against their will on things, but if I was in Impact Management's position, I would hold him to the contract.
It's a weird situation for me because I love, and I've said it in the interview. If you haven't listened, go to Wrestling Perspective Podcast to listen, or anywhere you get your podcast. I love Impact. I love the access they gave me. Scott D'Amore is an amazing person, and I like Scott, and I would love to be best friends with Scott. Scott, I hope isn't too mad about the interview. Depending on who we've heard from, there could be conflicting reports. I want to know him to know, if he ever listened to this, that interview came from a love from Impact. Look, would it have been easy just to say we shouldn't have done that interview? Absolutely. We probably shouldn't have done that interview. But
in hindsight. But again,
it's done.
Yeah, there was a story about Impact out, and you're clearing the air a little bit. And I again, your friend, but I agree. I think that you guys tried hard to clear the air and give Impact the benefit of the doubt on that.
And we did it, both sides. Listen, when we come back here on the Wrestling Perspective, we will talk more. Is NXT worth its money? So much other stuff. Russ McCall, Dennis Farrell, Wrestling Perspective. We'll be right back. All right, Wrestling Perspective, Russ McCall, Dennis Farrell. Don't forget to go over to whatforapparel.com/WPP. Buy a shirt. All proceeds go to rainbowconnection.org. We want to give our proceeds back and give back to the community. BlueChew.com. Use the promo code Perspective. It keeps us on the radio. Ringside Wrestling app. Wherever you get your apps, it's a great app. Chat rooms, trivia night. There's everything, an event every single night. Watch parties. Go there. You just got the app finally.
I finally got it myself. Well, I've had it downloaded. I just logged myself in, got it all set up this past week, and I love it, man. It's a great app, and I wish I would have done it a couple weeks ago.
It's free.
Pay more time.
And our podcast is on there, so go there, be part of it. It's a great wrestling community. Russ, let's move into a little bit of different controversy this week that has nothing to do with me, thank God.
Yeah. This is Dennis free controversy.
Oh my gosh.
Friends of Dennis, not free.
Dr. Callahan.
Yeah.
Set it up. Set it up. I'm giving you the ball here.
Yeah. So
come on, Goose.
So this week, we had a scenario with Sami Callihan and Jim Cornette at MLW. Mm-hmm. The incident, I think it was a combination of incidents, but it started out the night with Sami Callihan coming to ringside. And
he was in a loser leave town match.
Upset at Jim Cornette already over some comments that he made about Sonny Kiss in AEW.
Which, let's take those out because he's wrong. Not Sami Callihan, but Jim Cornette's wrong in his views on Sonny Kiss.
I believe so. Yeah,
nobody will argue with us unless you're in deep South. But that's all I'll say. But let's take that out. There's heat between those two. Sure, he said something he regrets, but let's.
So there's heat between the two of them going in. And Sami Callihan took the opportunity on the way to the ring to spit in the face of Jim Cornette.
And Jim was not happy.
Jim was not a happy guy, as one would not be. And then on top of that, he had a loser leaves town, falls count anywhere street fight with Mance Warner. And
some stuff got destroyed.
Yeah, about $35,000 worth of stuff in the arena.
Which
what I'm hearing is two $15,000 bleachers were damaged. I don't know if that it's the whole. Are you replacing it? Are you fixing it? Right. So I don't know the money.
Right.
And then about $2,500 worth of other stuff.
That's subjective because we've all been in an industry where it's like you broke a $5,000 light fixture and it's like a $500 or $200 or $100. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
So, however they break it up, he destroyed a good chunk of money of things that belong to the building, not MLW, not Court Bauer's property,
right?
But things for the building that Court had to pay for,
and the spin
came out of his pocket, and a building he likes to run and relies on to keep his business going, and that caused him to fire Sami Callihan from MLW.
Right, and so let's start with this Jim Cornette part.
Yeah,
Jim Cornette gets a big pass because he's Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette is allowed to say stupid things sometimes and get away with it because, Jim Cornette hates people and
he's Jim Cornette. It's part of his shtick.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and that needs to stop. I like Jim Cornette. I've never had the ability to interview him, or I don't think I've ever talked to him. I was there when he got into it with. At the Cobo Arena 3 years ago. The sock guy. Why do I have the snake?
Yeah.
The Mulan Miracle.
Yes.
There it is.
There you go. We'll go with that.
Close enough, right?
Santino Marella.
Yes. And Jim was the aggressor in that situation. Now, look, Jim gets grandfathered into a lot of things, and that needs to stop.
Yeah.
That needs to stop right now, and that should have stopped with the Sonny Kiss comments.
And yes, and I think it was, and I don't want to misquote this, but I think it was with Sami that at some point there was a conversation where Jim mentioned, "This is shtick, man. I'm just doing shtick for the podcast or whatever. Maybe we can make some money with this somehow." And
that's the problem with the wrestling.
I believe it was with Sami, and I think he told him to shove it.
Good for Sami Callihan.
Yeah. And again, I'm a huge Jim Cornette fan.
I know you are.
Mark. So, I tend to want to defend Jim way more than most people probably would.
Does he deserve to get spit on as a mark for Jim Cornette?
Do I think he deserved to get spit on? No. But I am not going to totally crap on Sami for it, given the gimmick, given the position, and Jim's propensity for old school.
Okay.
Hey, he went rogue and he took the character to a spot. Go with it. Okay, if you want to
make money, this is how you make money.
Exactly. You want to have words with him after the show about, hey man, that was a little much. Cool, but go with it on the air, man, and then keep it quiet, because Jim is for all that he will complain about people ruining the business and talking stuff. Jim's one of the first guys on the internet to talk his trash and to expose his thoughts too. So he loses a little credibility on that point.
Oh, Jim, you want to make money? Oh, you want to make it until you look like the goof in the situation. You know what? You hit the nail on the head. Sami Callihan is that gimmick. He lives it. He is that person. Now, I know Sami Callihan, the person, and I don't want to really put too much light onto who he is as a person.
Yeah.
It's not my job. It's not what I need to do. But here's the thing. I'm on the radio. I need to choose my words wisely here.
Yeah.
I loved Jim Cornette growing up. F Jim Cornette. Because he's gotten away under the whole guidelines of kayfabe with saying some of the most horrific things about some of the people that don't deserve it throughout history of wrestling.
He said a lot of terrible things about people.
And now he said a lot of true things about other people.
True.
Vince Russo.
Yeah.
So But it doesn't give him a pass.
No.
Being Jim Cornette does not give him a pass from saying something about Sonny Kiss in today's era where LGBTs are really trying to fight for equality in whatever aspect of life. Whether you agree with it or not, I don't care. It's not my job to judge, but they are. And a guy like Sonny Kiss probably has to fight 3 times harder just to get to where he is in life, only to get pooped on by one of the most iconic voices in wrestling.
Yeah, is the thing. If Jim's perspective is shtick, the shtick's gone too far.
Yep. Why wasn't Sonny Kiss involved?
The shtick's gone too far. You shouldn't. If you're looking for shtick, maybe you can say something on Twitter and then message him instantly, like, "Hey, man, I'm just messing with you. Keep it down."
There were a lot of things.
You can kayfabe it that way, but if he doesn't know you and he doesn't know where you're coming from, and
it's hateful.
It just comes off as hateful and evil, frankly. And again, I'm a Torch subscriber. Okay. I've heard firsthand accounts from Wade Keller and Bruce Mitchell talking about their interactions when they have upset Jim Cornette and the death threats he made to them and their family members on answering machines in the past.
Okay.
So it's not outside of Jim Cornette's realm to do something legitimately over the line. So,
but we're the babies when we get upset.
Yeah, but yeah.
That's just words.
So, I mean, you have said some pretty tough things. So when somebody said something back and responded, then you got upset. I have a hard time defending that now.
If getting spit on is the worst thing that's happened to you throughout the whole history of words that you've said.
Jim Cornette's shtick for the vast majority of his career, prior to the Twitter version of Jim Cornette, we'll call it, was show and tail, right? Like the Rock and Roll Express beat him around. He was the pansy pushover beat it guy who got his butt kicked until his team and his bodyguard saved the day for him and he helped a little weasel out, right? That was kind of his whole shtick. Yeah. So for him to take offense that somebody poo-pooed on him now, well, I mean, it's kind of like your whole thing, man.
You set it up with the words you say on your podcast. And you know what? Here's the thing. If I say
for them not to respond is something silly.
If I say something on the radio show, I say it because I mean it. If someone says something on their podcast, they say it because they mean it. Jim Cornette on his podcast has shown time and time again he's being real. He's being the Jim Cornette person. He's not using his podcast to set up storylines down the line.
No, he's not working for anybody. He wasn't working for anyone to set up a storyline.
No, not at all. So for him to use that as a cop-out, it's horrible. Own it. You know what? If Jim, and I don't know Jim, but if Jim is a racist, fine. I don't like him, and I won't like him. It's someone else's decision whether they like him or not, or whether they employ him. But don't be a racist and then be like, "Oh, I'm just playing the bit, guys."
And this is the thing. This is where I do think it is part of it is a bit, because I have listened to enough of Jim Cornette to realize that he's not racist, that he's not a bigot. He's a pretty liberal guy, to be honest, like really left-wing guy. Probably even further, than most would recognize.
As much as I like Jim, I don't listen to his podcast, and that's
I have in the past. I haven't as much lately.
That's not an indicator on what I think of him as a person. It's just a time constraint.
Yeah, there's a lot of podcasts and a lot of listening to do.
There is, and I grew up liking Jim, and I want to like Jim, and I hope that I find out in a month that him and the Sonny kissing was an angle, and we're sitting here talking, and we were wrong. But in the bubble that we're presented, screw Jim Cornette, and I hate saying that, but screw Jim Cornette, and cool. You know what? I want to hug Sami Callihan next time I see him for spitting all over Jim Cornette.
Yeah, Jim should have talked to Sami behind the scenes after everything they had back and forth on Twitter before the show. Jim should probably have reached out if he hasn't, and I don't know that he hasn't or he didn't try. I don't know any of that.
Sami, but by the way, I love Sami Callihan. Tough guy to get in contact with.
Yeah.
I've emailed him or texted him several times about, once was during the Killer Cross interview, I really wanted him to listen and give me his insight on whether we were in the wrong or not.
Yeah.
I didn't hear from him. He just got a new game for the PS4. I wanted to play with him. I didn't hear from him. But I bought him a jersey. And I was hoping he'd have been like, hey, buddy, thanks. I didn't hear from him. Now, that's not an indication on what kind of person he is, because I tell you what, I'll get to the rest of my Sami Callahan thought when we come back from commercial break. A little cliffhanger there, right?
Yeah, that's...
All right, you're listening to Wrestling Perspective. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Wrestling Perspective. You're listening to it. You missed any part of the show, feel free to go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com and listen to the commercial-free version. 100 radio stations all over America, baby. That's where we are. Russ McCall, Dennis Farrell. Russ, let me finish my Sami Callahan thought real quick before we move on to our next topic. Look, the guy, I bought him a jersey. I've asked him to play video games with me, and I needed some advice about a show I've done. I texted him, haven't heard back. But, he's the guy that will come up, hug me when he sees me, talk to me for 20, 30 minutes, and he'll randomly text me. But that's just the lifestyle he has.
He's a busy guy.
He's a busy guy, and I don't hold it against him at any moment when I don't hear from him, because I understand and accept that that's his lifestyle. So if Jim Cornette tried to reach out to him and Sami didn't get back to him, that's just maybe who Sami is.
Well, again, I'm going to play devil's advocate. If Jim did try to reach out, and I'm not saying he did, or that he probably even
We don't know. We have zero knowledge.
Zero
I've never talked to Sami about this.
But
I'm saying
if Jim had tried to reach out and Sami didn't answer and then spin
that's a totally different thing.
Different. It's a whole different thing.
But I think I know Sami enough to know that if it's wrestling related, he would have gotten back to somebody like Jim Cornette. I'm not Jim Cornette.
I mean, and again, they're in the back together.
Yes. All day
you
long.
can have a conversation at some point if you wanted to. You can drop the shtick and run with it. So I hope that the stuff with Jim is more shtick and gimmick. I hope if that's the case that he drops it and
I don't know.
We see a different side of Jim come out.
All right.
The damage to the arena.
It happens.
Yeah.
You're in a wrestling show. Sometimes it goes too far. Who knows how much direction they had?
So with that knowing that they've got, as a performer, some limitations and things you have to be careful with. Do you blame Court Bauer for giving Sami the axe?
Giving him the axe? No. I think it was probably something that was in the cards, and this was the excuse to give him the axe.
You think so? Court was saying that he had pretty good plans. That it was.
They always have pretty good plans. Come on, let's be honest.
Well, he kind of detailed out the storyline of what he had in mind.
But you have
Jim
Cornette,
Midnight Rider kind of scenario,
Impact contract. I think there's just a lot of things that we need to read behind the lines, and this was he did $25,000 worth of damage. Did he?
Or does this make?
Did he?
Is this kind of prolong Sami's image and give a way out of everything?
This makes him look so much better. If I'm Sami Callahan, I'm excited that this happened to me.
It's the baseball bat thing again, right? Like I
think it's a little different because you didn't hit someone in the face.
Yeah, it's a real life scenario that you were able to manipulate a little bit.
Did he scratch some bleachers? Maybe. And $25,000. Look, we've all you work in a system where if you break something and somebody has to come in and fix it, they're like, "Oh, you just did $1,000 worth of damage." You're like, "What are you talking? I chipped this, and you brought in the maintenance guy to fix it."
Yeah,
but there's this cost and this cost and this cost and this. You're like, I could have done it for $8 myself.
Yeah, I could have just done this and been done.
And that's
with it.
and personally, that's what I think. That
could be.
And Sami will never tell.
No.
All right, let's move on.
All right, so let's talk about NXT a little bit, man. So. It's just a thought coming across, and it's something that's kind of brought up to me after the last few weeks where we had talked about NXT. NXT gets a lot of credit for being a phenomenal show and the key core product that's good within WWE. And I think I'm curious about your take on a distinction here. Is it that as a whole, NXT is amazing? Or do they have great takeover specials? Because how many people do you know that are wrestling fans watch that weekly TV show?
Nobody. I don't know if anybody does. I don't watch the weekly show. I only watch the takeovers. But I think I've talked to people, and I've said it before. What makes it amazing is their ability to protect the brand. And overall, that's what you want. That's overall what every show should do is protect the brand. The main roster isn't protecting the brand. They're just oversaturating everything. I think that's it. It doesn't matter how it is or why. You have a pay-per-view 4 times a year, 5 or 6 matches, and it's the best 5 or 6 matches, and it steals every weekend it's ever on. You can't hold it against them that it's only 5 matches, 2 hours long.
I think that's a benefit, to be completely
honest
with you.
But
I'm not going to even say that you hold it against them. I think you put that a check mark in their column of
that
favors.
Is. You can't hold it against them that they only do it 4 times a year because they're smart enough to protect the brand.
Yeah.
So your question is, yeah, it's an amazing brand because they're smart from the roster to the branding, and that's what you want from a company. And they're doing it right under an umbrella that has a reputation of when they get something right, they stretch it thin and ruin it and move it on like that to the next thing. Not the NXT brand. So you can't hold that against them. I think they're phenomenal. I love everything they... Now, look, the weekly stuff, I don't watch it because I just have to go out of my way to get to the app, and it's a horrible excuse. But
I'm with you on that. I'm still a cable guy, not a cord cutting kind of thing. But so here's my question though. So if NXT's weekly show was put on cable, they were put in an hour of that Fox time slot, or they were put on USA. Is that weekly show going to hold your attention every week?
It depends. What day of the week does it come on? I think that's a huge...
Put it on Monday. Take an hour off of Raw. Put it on Monday.
Before or after the 2 hours of Raw?
Anywhere.
I think if it came on before Raw, people would watch it.
Okay.
If you're taking an hour off Raw. If Raw was 2 hours and NXT was the first hour of what it was, I think more people would watch it.
True.
I think less people would watch if it's on a Friday. I think that's going to be a death knell in the viewing content because that's what killed, as much as we all fondly love and look back on TGIF, was the NBC.
Yeah.
And nobody watched TV on Fridays.
TV on Friday nights, yeah.
They're all doing family stuff. It wasn't a way to keep people at home. They're going to just DVR it. And if they don't watch it on Saturday or Sunday, they're not going to watch it at all.
Very true. If I don't catch it within, especially on an episodic thing like that, like wrestling is, which is in front of a live audience, if I haven't watched it within a couple of days, by the time it's it. I just delete it and I'll catch a recap.
And that's unfortunately how we are.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I'm not disparaging that their show isn't good. Because NXT show is entertaining. I do find it entertaining.
But it's also pre-recorded, so I can read the spoilers a month in advance.
And maybe that's the part that becomes tough, because that was where my question was stemming from. Is I know a lot of people that love TakeOver and go on and on and on about it, myself included.
But don't watch anything.
Don't watch the regular show. I know a handful that do that are diehard. I'm that way. Do. But I don't watch the regular show on a regular basis. And I think you brought up a good point, that I was trying to connect the dots for, and I think you found the route, which is it's not necessarily that the show isn't good enough to keep attention. It's just I got to turn on the network, and I got to flip through, and I got to click on this, and then but then it's already pre-recorded. So I saw the results a month ago, and people have been on and on about it, and then
not to mention I've already done 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, and if there's anything else in between when it comes out on the network in that day, there's New Japan Wrestling news. It's not part of my weekly viewing habit. That's the key word, is habit. I'm trained to watch wrestling on Monday nights. I'm trained. I'm like one of those mouses in a maze that knows that if I eat the food on the red button, I won't get zapped.
Yeah,
that's what wrestling is Monday nights for me.
And that's a solid point. I mean, I feel like the harder I have to work to see it, the less likely I am to watch it.
The beaten path. I know USA is the destination for wrestling. When WWE went to Spike, I think for a short time. I didn't watch it on Spike.
Really? See, now that wasn't enough of a deterrent for me, and I don't think being back to TNT, that stuff's fine.
I'll go back to TNT.
It's the matter. It's the switching it over. It's the Impact's run into this issue. The network switches over and over and over again. I mean, there's a potential for another one when this contract's up here with Pursuit. I know they've had some issues.
Boy, I hope they go.
I do too. But again, they can't get traction because they're always switching networks, and it's hard to find. my dad, for instance, was a huge Impact fan, watched all the time. After with the switch over to Pursuit, he's like, I can't find it. I'm not going to search forever for it. Screw it. I give up. And he stopped watching Impact.
And I'm not going to load YouTube on my PlayStation or on my phone to watch a recap. I'm not going to watch it on an app on my video games. It's just not something I do as a viewing habit.
No, and to me, with the network, when it's a streaming service and it's a weekly a kind of a thing like that, if I have to, if it's almost like the convenience is too much. Mm-hmm. If I can easily click on it anytime, I know I don't have to turn over at 8 o'clock on Wednesday to watch this. I can catch it Friday, Saturday, whenever I get some downtime. Late Sunday night.
The keyword.
Then I'm like, okay, I'll catch it then. But you're right. So I don't form a habit by tuning in at that time, and I kind of get it. And honestly, I forget.
If AEW truly starts airing their show on Tuesday nights, I will watch it on Tuesday nights religiously.
Yep.
Because I am trained to watch wrestling on Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give up whatever I'm doing on Friday to watch SmackDown. And if, like we said, if I don't catch it over the weekend, I'm not going to watch it. And that's going to be the death knell in that product. If Fox was smart, SmackDown would be on Tuesday nights every night because that's what people are trained to do. I don't care if you go head-to-head with AEW. And I think it would hurt AEW if they went to any other night during the week because now you are going to have to retrain that wrestling fan to pick that night, clear their schedule, and watch it. That's what we have to do. We clear our schedules to watch wrestling.
Well, yes, I mean, you said SmackDown's another good example.
And it's going to be live. Nobody wants to watch wrestling recorded.
No. SmackDown's run into the same issue that we were just talking about with Impact. But with a set of networks, it's days. Mm-hmm. Impact or SmackDown has been on every day of the week except Monday.
Yes.
Now, it's bounced all over the place.
And when has it been the most successful?
Tuesday and Thursday.
Because that's when people watch, not on the weekend.
Yeah.
If you maybe did it a Saturday night event, I still think it would fill overall more weeks than not. But it's got to be, I remember growing up and I didn't have a job. I'd watch, in Georgia at like 7 o'clock at night to 1 a.m. It was just a block of wrestling after wrestling after wrestling. Now, sometimes I'd be late to it because I'm playing ball with my friends in the streets. But ultimately, I didn't go out and have a job. I'd come and watch it. You can't do that anymore, and I get it. And especially if you're targeting people with wallets, because they're working and they have lives. And girlfriends and wives and kids don't understand that I got to watch AEW on Fridays or Saturdays.
Yeah, no, that's not going to fly.
No.
No one's going to fly that out.
AEW, the smartest move out of everything they did, if they pick up Tuesday nights, which that's the rumor.
That's the hard chance.
That's what's going to help them win. Not going head-to-head with Raw.
No.
Not going head-to-head with SmackDown on Friday nights, but taking that Tuesday night spot that people are already trained in watching. How many viewers does SmackDown get per week? Let's just rough it. 1 million?
Yeah, a little over 1 million.
How many millions of people that watch it on Tuesday nights are going to stop doing it on Tuesdays and go straight over to Fridays? Not many.
No.
Because you got baseball and ice creams and stuff like that.
So let me ask you this. Given the schedule constraints, if you've got a certain amount of time to be able to watch wrestling in a week, and AEW is a hit, and you really enjoy the show, and you're watching every week, does that cut into your WWE viewing?
I tell you what. I'm going to answer that after this commercial break, because that's a very good question. Wrestling Perspective, you're listening to Wrestling Perspective Radio. Russ McCall, Dennis Farrell. When we come back, I'll give you my answer on this great question. If you missed any part of the show, go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. Look, Russ, that's I can't wait for the commercial to come in, and give me a second to think. But man, that's a good question. We'll be right back. All right, Wrestling Perspective, we are back. Go to Fightful.com. Fightful's been doing podcasts for about 3 years. They got over a dozen podcasts. Go to Fightful. Sign up for the Select. Fightful Select. It's phenomenal. BlueChew.com. Use a promo code Perspective. Not Perry Como. Don't use the Perry Como code. You asked me a question before we go to break. Set it back up before we send ourselves home.
So if AEW is a solid show and it's something that becomes regular viewing for you and another 2 hours of wrestling a week, is that something that cuts into your WWE viewing time?
I don't think it'll cut into my Raw viewing time, which it fluctuates. If I don't have to be up early the next morning, I'll stay up and watch about the 3 hours. And the product has slowly gotten better. If I have to get up early, I'll watch the first 2 hours. If it's on a Tuesday night, I will watch it and give it a try. But what's dead to me is the Friday night show. I'm either playing video games or I'm going out. And then Saturday, you've got a life and a family. I think what suffers is SmackDown. It's not Raw that's going to get hurt. Raw starts the week off. You're going to watch Raw regardless.
Yeah, they're in a prime spot being on Monday right away.
Tuesday is what sets the rest of the plate for the week. So if AEW is successful and I watch it on Tuesday, depending on what happens Wednesday, Thursday, maybe I'll pick up something here or there or watch something on YouTube. But as far as Friday's out for me. I can't tell my family, I watched Raw on Monday and I watched AEW on Tuesday. Hey,
but a Friday too, another 2 hours? No.
They're dead. That's a fatal flaw for them.
And I think it'll cut into some of my Monday. I think with some people it might. Like if you're watching enough Raw, it's bad. And then you watch the next night and you go, oh, this is much. But if that's the case, eventually you're going to be like, oh, why am I wasting my time on Monday? I just wait till Tuesday.
We've got an hour here, or a minute here.
Yeah.
Maybe this will flow over into a podcast special conversation. I think what we do is we'll end the show here. We've got about a minute left to wrap this up, and then we'll continue recording for bonus podcast commentary here because I've got a take on the Monday Night Raw getting cut into, but it has nothing to do with AEW. It has something to do with Friday, Saturday, and pay-per-view Sunday. So don't say anything.
All right.
This is going to be a podcast exclusive. If you're listening on the right now on the radio, go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. Pick it up from where you left off. Listen to what we have to say because it might be a little bit of eye opener. Russ, where can people find you?
Russ B. McCall.
Russ, you can follow me at Dennis77Farrell, Farrell on Twitter. Go to Wrestling Perspective Podcast on Facebook. Like it. We got a new show coming out tonight. Thank you, guys. We'll see you. All right, are they gone?
They're gone.
The radio audience is gone?
Just us.
Oh, it's just us?
Yeah.
All right, let me finish my
real
point.
Fans.
Bonus, the real fans, the podcast listeners that we value way more than the radio people.
By far.
By far. You asked about, depending on when you listen, because I think I'm going to post this like as soon as we're done recording.
Okay.
And then the Friday audience will come over like a day later or something.
Okay, so...
To set it up, by the way, it's instantaneous if you're listening on the podcast, but for us, it's days and hours, maybe even years before we've done this. I don't even know. You asked about what would cut into my Raw viewing, right?
Yeah.
And it's not AEW on Tuesdays, and we already talked about how SmackDown might be the product that suffers the most, but what it is Sunday nights, the pay-per-views. Are AEW pay-per-views going to be on Sunday nights? Are they going to be on Saturday nights?
I don't think they said. I don't think there's a clear...
It's got to be on either one or the two.
It's going to be on one of the two.
With WWE running every month on Sundays, it would hurt them, I think, to try to go head-to-head with the WWE pay-per-view.
I think a Saturday night shows...
It would be golden for them, right?
Yeah.
So there may be months where you have a Saturday pay-per-view, a Sunday WWE pay-per-view, and people go, I won't watch Stomping Ground, or I may not watch this, but you know what you will watch? Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, WrestleMania, maybe Money in the Bank, maybe somebody else, but there's 4 or 6, I think,
at your disposal,
that you will watch, that you will stop everything to watch from WWE. Right? I think 6 is a good number.
Yeah. 4 to 6.
And
I'll make sure to watch.
So now you've got a Friday AEW pay-per-view, whether you buy it or not. And let's be honest, nobody, depending on how often they run pay-per-views, nobody's going to watch those pay-per-views every month. Or
no,
every
my understanding is it's quarterly. The AEW is going to run quarterly.
And that would be different.
And I think it's a good call. So
once a quarter, you're going to have a Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday pay-per-view, Friday SmackDown, Tuesday AEW, Monday Raw. That following week will be the Raw that I won't want to watch, depending on the pay-per-view aftermath.
Yeah, a part of it burns on me now. for the same reason. We have takeovers usually on a Saturday.
Right.
When they do them.
Exactly. See, I didn't even put that in there.
Yeah.
So once a quarter, you may have
twice a quarter.
You're
going to have that.
You will have takeover, WWE pay-per-view, AEW special.
Yeah. And the takeover and
whatever
AEW special,
Impact. If you're an Impact fan, you have to kind of throw them in the mix too.
Sure. I mean, you got quite a bit of you. You got Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's 5 nights in a row. Here's the thing. I'm going to watch Takeover. I'm going to watch Takeover.
Yes.
Depending on the pay-per-view, I may watch it.
Right.
Oddly enough, having the network doesn't guarantee me watching the pay-per-views anymore.
No.
Like it did in the very beginning.
I agree with that.
I'm going to watch the good ones. Stomping Ground?
No.
Probably not.
You know what? I may start it. If Sunday night I'm sitting around doing nothing, I may put it on.
If I get bored, I might. But I probably won't, to be completely honest. That will take a hit. And then Monday, like, good Lord, I'm going to watch. I might even watch part of the pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. But then again, I was 2 nights in a row. By Monday, I'm like, oh man, I just can't. Like, and let's be honest, we've known WWE's booking enough. It's probably going to be a lot of repeats from Sunday on Monday. So then I'm like, oh, forget it. I'll wait. And then Tuesday, right now, it's flip-flopped. You've got the same guys on Monday and Tuesday.
Right.
Okay, I'm not going to watch them both.
Right now, we don't have that.
Watch back on Tuesday again.
Right now, we don't have that problem. But coming out after October, there's going to be a long jam.
Yeah.
And it's going to be tough because nobody knows how the pay-per-view fills are going to be. Nobody knows how much the pay-per-views are going to cost. Can you justify it? Are you going to watch a takeover over an AEW pay-per-view? Can some, if it's,
I would hope they'd be smart enough. They're not going to book them on the same night.
It's
they're
knows?
Not going to book them. They're not going to. There's no way.
It's the wrestling industry.
Yeah, I don't think they will.
There may be a water tester moment where they look. They're selling out 10,000 seat arenas, and they may get the cojones to say, you know what, we can take out a NXT takeover. Let's go do it.
They might. That's a big hill to climb. But to be honest, when you're competing with that.
But even then, you would still then have 2 weeks once a quarter where you have a pay-per-views on Friday nights where it could be 1 week at TakeOver, next week AEW, and then one of those Sundays is a WWE pay-per-view. Well, every Sunday. Oh, well, not every Sunday, but once a month. A Sunday. So,
and here's the interesting thing with with WWE's alone is I kind of cut AEW out of it in a way when I'm looking at I look at it as the same stretch but two separate situations. The WWE's product is so oversaturated and in such a condensed time.
Although this week
it
though
becomes too much.
I did say this and I really meant it. This week was the first week in 4 months where a Raw and a SmackDown back to back were probably the two good episodes.
And I didn't even watch SmackDown, and I got to about half of Raw.
And that's wasn't where bad I usually Raw.
No, that's usually where I get it, to be honest. I get about halfway through Raw.
Mm-hmm. It's just so long.
It's evening time. I've got kids. I've got a girlfriend, all that kind of going on. Around 9:30, stuff tends to come up. I had to pause the show.
Right. And you just
something with the kids,
come
talk
back
to the girl. Right. To be honest, I usually don't come back to it. And then I just give up and I go to bed.
And sometimes it's an indication on the product. I get it and I understand. And I'm not a WWE apologist, but this past week it was actually a pretty good product. So I'm not going to bash it this week. And hopefully it's a sign of things to come in the future because if WWE can right the ship, and they can't do it overnight. I know wrestling fans are like, hit the reset button and fix it. You just can't do it.
No, WCW tried that. And
it failed
over and over again in a short period of time, and it didn't work. You have to have
a slow-moving ship.
Yeah, you have to have a vision and have a reason in a direction before you hit a reset button. And I think I said this last week. With your current pool of talent and the way the shows have been set up for so long with the same talent, I don't know how easy it is to hit a reset button and make it feel all that different overnight.
You can't.
There's nothing you can do with that pool of talent on that show, on that night, run by this company to make it all that different.
And doing that amidst how bad the product is. And WWE just can't. And they've tried it with the whole, you're the voice and you're the boss now. And
they didn't mean any of that.
No.
They didn't mean that.
But this last 2 weeks have probably been the best 2 weeks of consecutive Raw and SmackDowns in the last 4 months. Now, I'm not saying they're going to keep it up. I don't know. But it was a good product. And by the way, I don't. The one they're doing two things genius here. Now we're probably going to disagree on the 24/7 title.
Yeah, because I think it's terrible.
I kind of
love it.
I'm kind of enjoying. I don't love it. I'm enjoying what they're doing with it now. The second one, and it's been sneaky, and this is something we all complain about long-term booking.
Yeah,
this Best in the World with Shane McMahon thing has been phenomenal. Hear me out before you poop on it. You know, how many months ago did this start where he took over for Miz out of nowhere? When was that?
Oh, I don't know. 6 months or so ago, I bet, maybe.
And we're still doing it, and it's had its ups and it's had its downs. But now, how he's parlaying this into having his own little new posse again and still being the best in the world.
And that part I'm fine with, as long as he's not the centerpiece wrestler of the group. Which is what I worry about. I had some friends mention the other day, they're like, I have a deep fear that Shane's going to be the guy to beat Kofi for the belt. And like,
if it makes sense, I'm for it.
Really, I am not for that at all.
Hear me
I don't
out.
think there's a way to make it make sense.
Outside of the Vince McMahon hardcore champion, and we're not talking about any other clowns that held belts in any other organization, it's a given that a McMahon will hold a belt at some point, right?
Yeah, and that's a good point. I want to bring something up. Go ahead.
But with this Best in the World, with him setting up the posse, and let's be honest, Shane's not a horrible wrestler. Sure, his punches look bad.
Really bad.
Okay, outside of that, we are left more times than not going, did you see what Shane did?
He's a stunt man. He's usually got some kind of key stunt.
But you got to give him credit for that because he's taken bumps. I mean, in the early days with Kurt Angle, I mean, he doesn't get enough credit for what he does in the ring. So for him to take a beating and maybe come out with the help of some friends as a champion, I could kind of get a little bit behind that.
But doesn't it seem a little bit Russo wins the title? Or
not even. There's a difference. When have you seen Russo take a suplex through 3 glass mirrors with a broken tailbone because it was supposed to be stuck?
No. Shane Shearer's worked much harder than Russo, but
a million times.
The concept of
it's not even.
He fluke wins it. The guy who's not really a wrestler fluke wins it because his buddies helped him.
But how many pay-per-views is he out there wrestling every month? And none of us ever say, look, we knock Shane McMahon here and there, right? But never once have we ever said, why Shane on a pay-per-view? He's not even a wrestler.
I don't think Shane's terrible.
That's the difference. That's the difference between Vince Russo or David Arquette. Shane McMahon's out there every month on pay-per-views putting in the work. Whether he wins or loses, whether he throws crappy punches, he's still putting in his worth in that ring.
And if I'm honest, I'd much rather see him challenge for a title than Baron Corbin. So,
But do you see the difference? Am I talking you a little bit into the idea?
I kind of see the idea. I see the concept. I still am not for it.
And that's opinion.
But
I'm okay with that.
But I do see the concept, and I see where you're coming from.
Shane isn't a Johnny come lately kind of guy who will get into the ring for the first time in 10 years and win the title. He's been on almost every pay-per-view since coming back. He's been on almost every show. He's been the centerpiece. He puts in good work. Not great work all the time. His punches are bad, but good work.
Yeah.
Some of the most iconic moments during the Attitude Era, or even now, Shane McMahon jumping off that Hell in the Cell at 50-something years old, right?
Yep.
Shane McMahon in Kurt Angle match. Shane McMahon going across the ring and doing that, double drop kick into a dumpster. Shane McMahon has had great moments, which can make me go, you know what? With help, and that's what he has. He has the help. Okay, I can buy where this storyline is going. Only with the help. Now, if it's him by himself, I go, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be honest. There's still a part of me with the whole storyline. It's hard for me to pay attention and want to get too invested because
the rest of the show's crap.
The rest of this just crap, and he's in there against Roman Reigns, who I still don't care about. I still don't care to watch him.
Fair enough.
He comes on, and I'm just like, yawn, and I tune out.
Fair enough.
So that part makes it a little tough. But I can see where there can be some merit.
You wrote some stuff down. Get to it because you've got to go.
Well, I was going to look for next week. I was thinking, but we can hit it real quick. Just that.
Do you want to save it for next week?
Yeah, let's save it for next week. We'll
All
save it next week and give it to the whole group.
All right. This has been the bonus episode of Wrestling Perspective. Go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com if this is your first time listening. Thank you, guys. Make sure you subscribe on anywhere you get your podcasts. Here tonight, well, I guess I'm releasing it Thursday, not Friday, because I can't wait.
Do it.
Yeah. Friday night, myself, Dave Chris from OVE Impact Wrestling, 3-time All-Star, 12-year MLV vet, Jason Kennor releasing a new podcast called Wrestling with Sports. There we go.
Yeah, I thought you said you were going to start to say we were having relations. I was like, whoa,
we've been dating.
This podcast went dark fast.
We've been dating for a while. I think it's time to kind of come out and let people know that I'm in love with 2 other guys. No. But I will say that it has its own feed. We were initially going to release it here, but I want to keep both shows special and not oversaturate the feed. So go find Wrestling with Sports. It's slowly being updated wherever you get your podcast. Right now, I know
we'll be tagging and
right now for sure it's on Google Play and iTunes. You can go to Wrestling with Sports on SoundCloud or whatever. Yeah. And it will be on the website, but just listen, give it a chance. It's light sports talk, light wrestling talk,
or be a human being and just download an app like normal people on a podcast app, and then search the show and download it.
Thank you. All right, guys, cool. This is the end of this week's show. Enjoy. We'll see you later.